Welcome to Buckeye Scoop Live. It is Sunday night. It has been a monster weekend for Ohio State football. We are going to break down the latest commitment, a huge commitment, just joined the fold recently, our likely 2024 quarterback, and another five-star that can be joining us. So we're going to break down some of that film. But as always, we are thankful for, very grateful for you guys tuning in tonight. Again, we love doing these shows with you. We love breaking this tape down. It's always a blast. You guys bring great energy, great questions. If you enjoy this content, please leave a like. Please comment. Which recruit from this weekend are you most excited about? Is it Aaron Nolan, James Peoples, Mylan Graham? We're going to go through all their film. Fantastic stuff. And we're going to talk about the scrimmage that took place. They're halfway through spring ball. A lot of great stuff came out of that. The defense looked pretty dominating. But again, I've seen this movie before last year. We didn't look like we could block guys. And then all of a sudden, our offensive line turned out to be really good. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that. And maybe some options if the pass protection does not improve, specifically at the right tackle position, what Justin Fry and company could do to shore that up. First, we are going to head right into the film studio today. Nevada is on a little bit of a hiatus right now, so I am getting this booted up real quick. We've got one second. Let me get this on for you guys. We are going to break down some James Peoples film. He is a guy who I think you guys are going to be very excited about. There it is. So James Peoples is our newest running back in the fold. There is the young man. He is a dominating player out of Vets Memorial in Texas. Just committed to Ohio State shortly, a little bit ago. We're going to get right onto his film. But as you can see, 4 stars across the board. I think he's a guy that potentially could be a 5-star. With the Buckeye bump that is very popular among 247 on 3 and rivals. These guys commit to Ohio State. Magically, they get bumped up to being 5 stars. But his film is fantastic. I reviewed it with Bill Green. We're going to get into that right now, just because I know how much you guys love watching some of this tape. I was watching a little bit of him, a little bit of Mylan Graham before I got on. Mylan Graham's tape is unbelievable. I think you guys are going to be really excited to watch that. So we're going to break down a little bit of James Peoples. James is a kid, again. The J.K. Dobbins comparison is somewhat lazy to me just because he's a Texas kid, but I think that this kid's got all the tools to really be a big-time factor back for us going forward with Ohio State, with what we're trying to do on offense. He is a dominating player. Again, it's not just the burst and the speed, it's the quickness, it's the ability to read blockers. We talk a lot about awareness, spatial awareness. A lot of people complain about Trey Henderson. I think Trey Henderson is actually a fantastic running back, but sometimes guys can be fast, but they can't set blocks up. They can't. They don't have the feel for the running game. So here, this is just I love this play because this is a counter. So they're running a double counter here. They're pulling the guard and the tackle to get, and this is a read option play. So you're going this way, and if you get the look that you want, the quarterback can pull it here. But here, you see these guys both close down because of the double pull action. So he hands it off, and this guy's, this is James Peoples running a 4-4, going back out the back door. Very difficult to defend. And again, the kid is aggressive. Watch the finisher. 3 guys. Boom, spin, gets off of him. Spin, shoulder, end zone. He's allowed to do a little dance after something like that. That was pretty spectacular. So again, I love this kid's film. I love when this is something that we ran this counter stuff. We ran a lot of this counter stuff with Mitch Rossi. We pulled our tackles a little bit. This would have been Mitch Rossi last year. I love when teams run similar concepts to what we run, just because I feel like it just is. It makes it real natural, and he gets put in. I think running backs are one of the positions that you can almost start as a day one freshman like Maurice Clarett if you're good enough. And this kid can kind of do everything. Like, he's got great hands, great route runner. But again, you see the Jets, splits the safeties, goes to the crib, so fast that his turf tape's falling off his left elbow, which is hilarious. But yeah, like I said, like the little jump cut, just a small thing. It looks like this is coming back because of a hold. But you see, he sets up the blocks, he hits his little jump cut here, and it's gone. Now it's coming back because you see the yellow laundry coming out right there. But I love this kid's ability. I love that if he gets through the line, he can go to the crib. And again, that's the greatest feature outside of awareness. This is one of my favorite plays that I've ever seen. We watched this the other day with Bill the Bank Green. Here, they're setting up a little screen for him, little tunnel screen. You got the block set up. The defensive end does a great job here because he jumps it. He sees it. So the quarterback kind of has a tough position here because if he throws that, there's a really good chance it's going to get intercepted or it's at least going to get tipped. I'm not sure how athletic this kid is if he could actually make the pick like Julius Peppers or J.J. Watt would. But what James Peoples does, this is amazing. He sees the play break down. It's a dead play at this point. But he instead goes and finds open space and gives the quarterback a lane to throw the ball, which again, that's just football intelligence. That's just something that not every kid has. Not every kid has a feel for the game where all of a sudden it kind of turns into street ball, turns into get open, find space. It's kind of like a scramble drill for a wide receiver when the play breaks down, and it's something that Ohio State practices a lot. The quarterback scrambles out, it'll break off your routes and get open. Show the guy your hands and your numbers and that you're open and give him an outlet to get rid of the ball. So he gets it. Again, they dodge a bullet here because this linebacker's all over it, but he catches it, hits a spin, and that's just a spectacular play off of a dead play. And again, that's football intelligence, football awareness. It's just being a football player. Like that's a generic way to describe it, but it's kind of what it is. And he takes a dead play and takes it to the crib. So again, I love this kid's film. I think he's going to be a superstar. Again, the jump cuts and the feel are just things that they're not natural. Like we've seen guys like, and I'm not trying to dog out Master Teague, and I love Master Teague. He's a great kid, but that's one of the things he didn't have. He didn't have this jump cut right here, right there. Guys get ready to wrap him up, going low, gets right out of the grasp. I mean, it's just fantastic. And again, this is the kind of guy that, he can grind out yardage. He can get loose. Love the guy. Yeah. And I agree. CJ, I think Air's the next commit. I think it's pretty obvious after the full court press they put in that Gene Smith talking to him. Like when Gene comes in, it's because they're getting that guy to commit. So I'm just telling you, man, I love this kid's film. Here he is on a wheel route. And like, this is something that I don't think we do enough of, honestly. I think that something that was great with Xavier Johnson in that Georgia game is they did it with him and they took him right down the chute against the linebacker. But this little wheel route, something we did it versus LSU with Brandon Sane. This is a tough cover now. I mean, if you got a linebacker or there's confusion, again, like you have confusion in the secondary. Nobody knows who's covering who. And he gets a nice ball, not a great throw. This could have been a better throw. He could have taken him deep, but makes the catch. And again, that's a tough cover right there. So like, again, I just love that ability because I think if there's one thing that I don't think we do enough of in Ryan Day's offense, and again, our offense is as explosive as it's ever been in history. It's the most explosive offense in the country. We don't utilize the back stuff in the throw game, which again, when you have Marvin and Emeka and Jackson Smith and Jigba and Garrett Wilson, it's hard to do that because there's only so many touches to go around. There's only one football. But I think, when you have a guy like this, he's just another option. Then you have Jelani Thurman, who's the best receiving tight end we've had. I mean, you've got, over the next few years, we're going to have some pretty spectacular guys coming in because, we're going to have J.J. Smith. We're going to watch some Mylan Graham next. And we're going to watch a little bit of Air. I'll watch some of Air. I've watched Air. Air, if you just look at his stats and on paper, Georgia Player of the Year, set the record for most points in the state of Georgia last year with Jelani Thurman as his tight end. There's nothing really to be upset about. I think that, he's rawer than Dylan Raiola, but he's got upside. He's a great kid. He's got a cannon for an arm, but is he accurate enough and can he process the information quick enough? I think that's what it comes down to in Ryan Day's system. Like, you got to kind of be like a computer, like CJ Stroud is a computer. He could see it. And the thing about CJ is the touch on his passes are what really sets him apart from pretty much any quarterback we've ever had other than maybe Dwayne Haskins. But that's the thing that Air's going to have to work on because, the hardest part about Air right now is that he plays on a team that is so dynamic and so dominant that, they just buzzsaw everybody that they go against in that division in Georgia. Now, it's still really good football. It's Georgia football, but, that team that he plays on is like they're like the Space Jam Monstars team. They're so good. So it'll just be interesting to see how he develops. I think he's going to, obviously need a couple years with our situation right now, I mean, we don't need him to be ready to go year one. But I'm excited about the kid. I think he's got big time talent. I met him down in Naples at a South Florida Express camp. Super nice kid. Really, really, hardworking kid. The kid is also built. I mean, he is built like a house. I mean, he is ripped, physical kid. So it'll be interesting to see with his athleticism. Do you run him at all? I know Ryan hates doing that, but if it's there and the kid is physically built to do it, I mean, I think that sometimes guys they feel like if that's one of their assets, if you're not gonna let them do it, it's almost like you're handicapping. I know how Troy Smith felt in 04, when he had to wear a black jersey and he couldn't scramble. It really makes it tough for him to have all of the tools in his toolbox ready to go, because he was a fantastic creator in the pocket. I don't like to say scramble. He's a guy that could create first downs. And you do that by any means necessary. If it means you got to play breaks down and you got to run, if it means you got to throw it, like whatever it takes, it's just move the chains and score touchdowns. And obviously Troy did a lot of that and won a Heisman. But yeah, I love this kid's film. Again, like his balance, his toughness. Again, and this is a small thing, but like these guys that like dive forward. And again, this isn't like a super clean photo right here. This is murky. Like there's a lot of stuff going on. There's blocking, you're looking for stuff. You see white color of the jersey, and the way that he can just kind of cut through all of it. Again, that's not something I take for granted. I've had running backs that run into darkness, so to speak. This kid, and then at the very end, you see him, he gets tackled and he lunges forward for another 3 yards, falls forward, which again, small thing, but I've seen guys that don't do that. And when you get a guy that does do that, it's impressive. Here's another wheel route. Again, they love running these wheel routes with this kid. And again, it's because he's good at it. He's explosive. They run this little pick play. You can imagine this being Brandon Ennis or Tate or JJ Smith. And then you run him off here. This is really hard. I mean, if he's got him manned up right here, this is really hard to cover. So he's got to turn, and he's got all this interference, and they don't switch it off. So, he instantly is going to be able to separate from him, and he does, and so, you end up giving a 70-yard touchdown up because of the concept. And that's not a tough concept to run. I mean, every team in America runs that concept, but it's just having guys that can execute it. So again, the speed, the balance, the power, again, like watch this run. Like, look how great this is. I mean, this is Texas football. This isn't, you're not watching, this isn't Indiana, Minnesota, South Dakota. This is Texas football. And, the jump cut, again, the agility, the quickness, and the guy, and again, he strings like 3 moves together. This is like an X Factor in Madden kind of thing, where it's like, if that happened to you on the video game, you'd be really angry. But I love this kid's, I love his ability. Here's another, the horizontal stuff is something that's really tough to defend with the read action. I know that Ryan does not like to do the read stuff in his offense, but if you do a little read stuff and all of a sudden, you got a guy like Air who's an athlete, or Devin Brown who's an athlete, it's tough. I know that we're running more read option this year than we ever have, just because we got to find ways to manufacture first downs, and I think we have to protect our offensive line a little bit and run the ball. Don't just be chuck and duck. Last year when we had Paris and Dewan, it was different because we had 2 of the best pass blockers in the country. Here's another wheel route. I mean, I don't know how much these guys scout this guy, but here he goes again. And this is right down the chute. And this is it's a blow. I mean, obviously the linebacker blows the coverage, and that's tough for that safety, man. That safety better get on his horse, and he gets him down, which is amazing. But no, again, I love this kid's film. It's so fun to watch. But yeah, I think we get Air, we get Milan. Again, we just got to start stacking some defensive ends and some linebackers. And we really got to get some linebackers. I think Peyton Pierce is going to be next. I know James Lawrence is killing it with the linebacker recruits. They got to get him on the road somehow. Get those questions fired up, guys. We're on here right now. Again, I think James Peoples is a monster, man. Oh my God. So I'm super excited about this kid. Appreciate you guys. Fire away with questions in the comments. Give me those comparisons. Who does he look like to you? Is it Trey Sermon? Is it JK? I don't know, man. I mean, because with his speed and his explosion, I think it's some JK, But man, I don't know if JK was this kind of a threat out of the backfield to catch the ball. I mean, this guy's a legit threat to go get the ball. Then, you see these where he gets past the first level, man. He's to the crib. So this is a huge get. Again, I'm really excited about this kid. He's not as thick as Zeke, but some of the stuff he does is kind of like Zeke, just in terms of, falling forward, agility. Zeke was a big time hurdler in St. Louis. The problem with Zeke's tape is he was playing low level St. Louis football. He played for a Christian school. I think it was like Briarcrest Christian. And, the kids he was going against were like the preacher's kids and stuff. So he was just killing those kids. But that's all he can do. His parents sent him to a really good school and it worked out okay. But his agility and his wiggle was something to behold. And again, like, this kid runs tough. So we're back to the first one. But to put on a little Mylan Graham, I'm really excited about this kid. I think he's next. Talked to some really good people that were around the WAC all weekend. Super excited about this kid. Brian Hartline doesn't lose when it comes to these receivers. I mean, he's the guy that kills the game when it comes to getting these receivers. And I know JJ Smith real well. I love JJ. Talked to his dad at length. JJ's all over this kid. Like, that's kind of the special thing about some of these big time receivers is that they see the value of getting here's Mylan. Here, real quick, I'll put his I'm gonna toss his profile up real quick so you guys can see it. Because I know sometimes that helps when you guys are watching it. But this kid is a monster. So he's a JJ Smith. He's not quite as big as JJ. JJ is like a Julio Jones, but you watch this kid, man, he is a burner. He gets the ball, man, and he is gone. So you see the 5-star ranking. He's every bit of a 5-star. Not the same player as JJ Smith or Ennis. He's probably more like a Tate. I think Tate's a little bit taller, but this kid can fly. So we're gonna get this tape on because I know you guys love watching some of this tape with me. I love watching it too because it is. When we get these guys that are special, I just can't wait to get it on and show it to you guys because you guys are gonna be like, holy cow! We're gonna watch the first clip and you guys are gonna be like, this is unbelievable. First clip, on the 1 yard line, and you know how this is gonna end. But you see the afterburners, the 6th gear. He's like he's a McLaren. He's a Hellcat. I mean, I don't know what kind of car he is, but man, when he gets that ball, you better pray that someone has got a good angle, because if you don't have a good angle on this kid, man, he's going to the crib. Punt returner, which I would love. I think that, I wish that we had this guy this year so we could get a mech off the punt returns, but I mean, look at the Jets. Holy cow. So again, I like when you get these different receivers that are, like him and JJ Smith, they're both 5-stars, but very different players. I think JJ is the best player in the country. This kid is just like, look at him pull away from guys. Again, this is Indiana football. This is not Georgia football. Again, it's not the same, but still, you see the speed, you see the acceleration. And I mean, if you're the quarterback here, you just throw it as far as humanly possible, and he's getting behind guys. And then you see the separation. It goes from 5 yards to 10 yards to 15 yards by the end, and it's unbelievable. No, I know you're right. Exactly, like a Z06. Yeah, you guys know what I'm talking about. I mean, you can say it, but look at it. I mean, I know Peter Work didn't run that good of a 40, and I was watching his tape over the weekend, but I mean, he looks like Peter Work. But I mean, I know Work didn't run a 4.3, but this guy, he gets that ball, man, and it's gonzo. Look at this. He's the guy that I would love, like, you're kind of like in a mecca where, you could run the jet sweeps with them, manufacture touches with them. Like, when you have those guys that are those dynamic athletes that just have pure speed to burn, like obviously we had Ted Ginn. Ted Ginn's fastest player in program history. You just got to manufacture touches for him, because if he touches it, there's a chance it could go 80. Like, again, Urban loves Percy Harvin. I don't think this guy is Percy, because Percy was a different beast. I mean, Urban thinks Percy's the greatest player that's ever played college football. Not even kidding. And but this kid, from a pure Jets perspective, and here I love a play like this to see the kid high point the ball, do something other than just run behind everybody. But you see the competitiveness. I mean, he's double teamed here, and he goes up and he's a 6 foot tall guy. He's not 6'5". He's not JJ. But I love the skill set. Like this, you put this guy in the slot. let him just murder people. Again, I love the film. Like I said, watch this hand up in the air. I would just throw it as far as you can. If you're Aaron Nolan or you're whoever our quarterback is, man, just chuck it. This kid's gonna go get it. So, but yeah, and again, I love the clips of the kick returns because this is gonna be, to the crib, and that's something that it's kind of been taking it out of college football because we fair catch so often. But if we could get a dynamic kick returner. Again, I think that they would just add a whole new aspect to what we do. But in the era of the sky kicks and the fair catching of the kickoffs, I don't know if that'll ever be a thing again. But I love that. Here's a little bubble screen. Doesn't really use any of his blockers. He's just like, no, I'm just gonna look at this. It's like Madden. It's like Hester, But I love watching this kid's film. I've watched it a couple times, and here I think that they forgot to turn the lights on in the stadium. But no way. No way. He came all the way out of that. So I don't know. I mean, this is really hard to see, so I apologize. This is the film that they provided, so it's a little murky. But he catches this. I mean, this is like, he's like David Copperfield. He catches it right. What, here? And there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then you got a deep 7 back here. And he's on the 30-yard line. And none of these guys get this guy down. And he hits the LB button on him on that last one to juke himself into the end zone. But that's nasty. And again, like I love the different skill sets, and I love speed. Like when we get speed guys, these guys are terrifying. It's like if we saw in the Georgia game, they had that 10-7 guy that unfortunately got behind us, but you saw like one play can change the game when you have guys like that. And we've got guys. This is a great catch here too. Yeah, so this guy's every bit of a 5-star. I mean, his film ain't JJ's, but nobody's film's JJ's. But this shit, this is a different beast. I'm just trying to think who I'd compare him to. Who would you guys compare him to? Leave it right in the comments right now, just because the speed is just dazzling. Like that's the thing about this kid, man, is he can go, and that is something I just love. Again, I played with Ted Ginn. Santonio Holmes, the guys that can get out and go. Even Drew Carter was a guy that was really underrated. He was, like a Big Ten-ish hurdler, sprinter type. I mean, Drew Carter tore his ACL multiple times, and he still was a 4.3 guy. So just I just love the guys that can get up and go. But yeah, I'd love your No, I mean, brass tacks. I think we're gonna get like Noah, Ennis, JJ, and this kid. And I'm telling you, the way Brian Hartline's getting these guys 3 and out. Is he playing DB here? Oh my God, he's playing he's playing like a safety. He looks like he's playing like a free safety right here. And see, if I was this kid, I'd play corner. Whew, look at that. Tell you what, man, corners get paid a lot of money in the league, man. So we're back to the first play. I'm gonna switch up the jukebox and I'm gonna put air on. Put a little air on for you guys. Appreciate you guys being in here. Yeah, I think Carnell Tate. Carnell, it's funny because they talk about him being like a pro's pro. He's got a 4.0. But I think a lot of it was, he made a really mature decision to go down to IMG Academy. Bill Green and I talked to him and his dad when he was about to be a junior, and he was in Chicago still, and then he decided to go to IMG. And I really think that helped. I think it prepared him to be a pro, basically. He shows up, he knows the playbook. He's already running with the ones, which is, I mean, for a guy that graduates early, for a freshman to be running with the ones, it's almost impossible. Obviously it helps that Marvin and Julian Fleming aren't doing anything, and Mecca's not doing anything. But, I'm not taking anything away from the kid because you're still going against, Davidson Igbinosun and Denzel Burke and guys that have played 2-3 years of college already. So it's impressive to say the least, So I think that, when a guy can step in like that, you got to be worried. If you're some of these guys that are Julian Fleming, Jaden Ballard, when you got a guy who's already that good to run with the ones, and Brian Hartline trusts him to that degree, I just, you don't want to pull a hamstring in training camp. I'm telling you, because that was, when you're at Ohio State, like I lived it, you just don't want to miss any time because there's always someone really good behind you. And, if they're better than you and they're younger than you, there's a good chance they might take your spot. So this is our boy Air. Again, I don't think that the recruiting stuff is accurate at all, but Pretty much 4-star, top 5-ish type quarterback. Georgia kid, Langston Hughes High School, same as Jelani Thurman. We're going to throw his film on. I mean, he threw for, I mean, in 3 seasons, he's got 8,000 yards and 104 touchdowns. Last year alone, in 1 season, 4,095 yards and 55 touchdowns. Completed 73% of it. And again, that's unbelievable. Broke the record for most points, 792 points in 1 season, 1 high school season. So he is he's second. He was Georgia Player of the Year, which is an incredible honor. Second team All-American as a junior. So I think that he's got a ton of upside. He's a great kid. I mean, again, he's on South Florida Express. I talked to Brett Getz and Rookie and the guys that all run South Florida Express, and they love the kid. I mean, he's a really nice kid. I think he's got some development to do. I think that's the biggest reason why he's not a number 2, number 3, or number 1. But he's going to be a big time dude. So I'm going to throw this film on because his film is awesome. Now his team is also, the Monstars from Space Jam. So, but I'm just telling you, there you see it right there, 55-5, 4,000 yards, Georgia record for most points scored. So I mean, I just reiterate it. So I mean, he's ultra productive. If you're scoring, on the report card, he's A+ productivity, A+ character. And again, I think that his team is his team's really good around him. So, and you can't just, you can't penalize him for that, but you just have to be realistic when you're grading him that, hey, his team is really good. And that's something that kind of CJ Stroud deals with. Like CJ Stroud, who I think is a great quarterback, but there's some scouts that say, well, what if Will Levis played at Ohio State, or what if Anthony Richardson played at Ohio State, or even Bryce Young? I mean, Bryce Young, even being at Bama, didn't have Marvin and Emeka and Jackson Smith and Jigba and Garrett Wilson, and so again, I am not knocking CJ Stroud at all, but it does help when you have the infrastructure. I think that any quarterback, in college or pro level, the infrastructure is what kind of makes or breaks them. If they don't have the infrastructure, if they go to a bad team, if they get beat up early, if organizations that fire their head coaches, every year or 2 years, I think that's really hard for a young quarterback to make it. So it'll be really interesting to see. I hope CJ goes to Carolina just because I think Frank Wright being a quarterback guy would be huge for him. And it's nothing against D'Amico Ryans, who I think is going to be a really good defensive coach, but it's always different when your head coach is an offensive guy, and especially a guy that was a former quarterback in the league for a long time. I think that they just bring a level of expertise that would really help develop CJ over the Texans. And plus, I think that they've added some guys, DJ Chark, Adam Thielen. But again, I think that CJ, if he gets to either of those top 2 teams, he's gonna be looking around and saying, "Man, I wish I had Marvin and Emeka and Jackson Smith and Jigba and Paris and DeJuan," because I think all 6 of those guys would end up starting for the Carolina Panthers if they were on there next year. So, but yeah, here's Air again. The production is incredible. His highlight tape, just for reference, James Peoples was 7 minutes. Mylan's was about 6. Ayers is 15 minutes. So, when you score, you have 55, and then you have that the 5 rushing TDs. I mean, it's a lot. But again, this is some of the stuff that I think with him, it's something you can do probably more so than with CJ. Just a little read option stuff, and again, this is tough. Here's Jelani coming, wrapping the guy. And again, there's just nobody home. This is just tough to defend. Like I like the read option. I know that there's some teams that don't like doing it because they're worried about getting the quarterback hurt. But, if there's a guy there, just slide and get 7 yards, But I think Ayers' film is phenomenal. Again, he's playing big games, championship games. He can create, here he is creating. It's also kind of interesting he's a lefty. I don't think we've had a lefty since Steve Bellisari. But, I don't really think that matters. But it will be kind of interesting to see if any part of the offense changes. I know that people say, well, won't the right tackle be the blindside tackle? And I don't really think that matters anymore. I think that no matter what, you have to have 2 tackles that can pass protect in modern football, or else you have no chance of playing. So, it'll be interesting. Some scrimmage thoughts, because I had a ton of people at the scrimmage. We actually put a 4K video of practice up on our YouTube channel that you guys are watching right now. But I think that the right tackle spot is something that needs to get shored up, and it's up to Tiger or Zen Mikulski, who was injured, to get it going. And if not, I think if you're Justin Fry, obviously they'll go hit the portal, see if they can get another right tackle, even just to compete with Zen and Tigra. But the other option is put Josh Fryer back at right tackle and put Donnie at left tackle. I think that's something that Donnie's our best athlete, he's our best tackle. He played left tackle last year in the spring behind Paris, so if that's what it takes, that's what it takes. Because I think that the entire ability of the offense to function is going to come down to the pass protection from our two tackles. So, I know Josh Fryer is a quality tackle, and I know Donnie be a quality tackle. So, Tigra is young still. He's only a true sophomore or redshirt freshman. See, I believe he redshirted last year. Zen is a third year guy, and those guys, they're not getting any easy work, man. They're going against JT Tuimoloau and Jack Sawyer, who I think are two of the top 10 defensive ends in the country. It's going to be exciting to see what kind of numbers Jack Sawyer puts up, because you remember he led the team in sacks last year, 4.5 sacks, and he really didn't play a lot. Like, he was playing that jack position, kind of wonky, playing 15 to 20 snaps a game or so, kind of out of position, and he's still productive. And I think in year 3, these guys all sharpen their pencils, man. These guys all want to be draft picks. They all want to be first round picks. So guys all of a sudden start eating more salad. They start stretching more. They start, working out a little bit harder, coming home a little earlier instead of staying out till 2 a.m. So, I think with JT and Jack, they both want to have the option to go pro after this year, and I think that that's the goal. And they know that they have to get 7, 8, 9 sacks for that to happen. They have to be better pass rushers than they were last year. And I think they will be, because I think that the biggest thing that'll help them is having Mike Hall and Ty Leak and Ty Hamilton in the middle, because those guys have been great, and those are, guys with similar aspirations. They want to be 3 and out. They want to go pro. And, I'm super excited for Mike Hall. I think Mike Hall is a kid that I've talked to a ton all the way back to high school, because he's always been a gym rat. And I always loved that. He's a guy that, he'll be in the gym late. He's a jump rope guy. He always working on his feet, working on more explosion, working on his stamina. I just think he was beat to heck last year, and that's why he couldn't produce the way that he wanted to. We saw the flashes in the Notre Dame game, and Notre Dame had a really good offensive line, and Mike Hall was dominating against them. So, but as that shoulder got worse and worse, man, he just wasn't. He's kind of a one-armed guy out there, and that really makes it tough to do. But yeah, Ayers film, again, here he's dropping it in the bucket. Is that Jelani? So there's Jelani. So, you guys that like tight ends, if you guys are the guys that take Travis Kelce in the first round of your fantasy drafts, Jelani is just, his film is one of my favorite things in the world to watch. And that's something that, we don't really split a tight end out, because we've had Marvin and we've had these guys that are big red zone weapons. But, Jelani he's a beast, man. Like, I love watching Ayers tape, because you see these Jelani clips, and they're nice, man. The dude's nice. So, but again, yeah, I think Air, just working on his timing, again, I think he gets bailed out on stuff like this, because he has, guys, I think this might be Jelani again. This is kind of off the back foot, fade away, throw up a lollipop. And again, there's a guy wide open in the middle of the end zone. His back releases. Probably shouldn't be releasing when there's a free rusher here, because he's in pass protection. But Air doesn't see him. And again, if you got Jelani out there, it's fine. You throw it up to the 6'6" guy. But yeah, I like his tape. I think he's got a lot of upside. And again, after the Dylan Raiola fiasco, and I was basically telling Jane Davis to buzz off for Dylan Raiola. I've seen some funny things in my life, but how all that stuff played out and how it all ended up, I think that this is a low maintenance kid. I think he's a really good kid. I think he's got a lot of upside, but you're gonna have to work with him. You're gonna have a lot of raw clay there, just in terms of his ability. Like I said, I literally was watching him and JJ while I was talking to JJ. They were playing catch, and they're like most people when they play catch, they just kind of warm up. The first ball Air threw was probably 100 miles an hour. I was like, oh my God, my hands would have turned into dust if I'd have tried to catch that thing. But JJ just does nothing. But it was funny, because all the guys on the South Florida Express were all laughing about that, because they're like, damn, are you, normally it's like a nice little soft toss to warm the elbow up, and he just threw a missile, but that's what he does, man. So, and again, I think that that's something that, I don't know if he was showing off his arm strength, but I think he's got a lot of upside. And again, I think that his character and how tough he is and how good of a kid he is, it lends him to be able to be coached hard. So, Ryan Day is notoriously tough on his quarterbacks, and that's kind of what makes him, pressure burst pipes. And Ryan Day believes that it is not a love fest when he's coaching the quarterbacks. And I think that's why his guys are so good under pressure, because they're used to his pressure. So, yeah, I love his stuff. Yeah, I think Davidson Igbinosun looks like Jeff Okuda. I see you in here, brass tacks. Yeah, I think he's really good. Yeah, if he's anything like JT, I'd love that. I think he's got a stronger arm than JT, but if he's anywhere near what JT was, I'll take that all day. 3 silver footballs don't lie. What question you guys got? I just grinding along on this tape. Again, appreciate you guys all being on here. Yeah, like I said, and this guy, you look at his production, it's A plus 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 plus. So, he broke the Georgia record for points, and he doesn't have a 5-star. He doesn't have a JJ. He doesn't have a Carnell Tate, but he did have Jelani, big time tight end, monster tight end. But yeah, I love his film. Like I said, and I talked to the kid, really nice kid. I've said it 50 times, but sometimes you can talk to a kid for 5 minutes and tell if he's going to make it or not. And I think this kid's he's got a real chance. He's got to stick with it. And the thing about Ryan Day with quarterbacks is that he's always going to be looking to upgrade that room. Always. He's going to be in the portal every year. He went after the kid from North Carolina this year because he wants the best quarterback in America to be in his room. And if he's not here, he's going to go, if anyone's thinking about it in the portal and there's any back channel way to get to a kid to gauge interest, we're going to do it. That's how modern college football is. So, these kids can never kind of be waiting their turn and thinking, is that Jelani again? It's Jelani. See, I love watching Jelani's phone. He's great. Here he puts the shoulder on this guy. Is Jelani. A little cross block. We run this a lot. Kind of this cross zone play. Dump it to Jelani, puts the shoulder on the dude. Dude tries to hit him when he's already in the end zone, and Jelani hits him with the Jerome Bettis stiff arm, which is great. So, but yeah, I think he's our guy, so we're going to end up with him, James Peoples, JJ, Mylan Graham. This is going to be a star-studded offensive class. They all got their senior years to go, obviously. But yeah, it's starting to come together. This is probably a little later than you'd expect us to get a quarterback. Obviously, we took Dylan Raiola's commitment literally almost a year ago at the spring game. We took Dylan's commitment. We told Jaden Davis not to come to the spring game. We saw how that worked out. So it's been a long, strange trip for the 2024 quarterback, but I think we got our guy. So I'm really excited about this kid. Again, I think that, Jelani being here, I just think if you're a 2024 quarterback and you see that you've got Ennis, Tate, JJ Smith, Mylan Graham, those are all the guys that are your age or maybe 1 year older that you're going to be throwing to, you have to be crazy to not come to Ohio State because your job is so easy when you have those guys. You have Brian Hartline calling the plays because Brian Hartline is a wide receiver. So we're not going to run the ball more with him calling the plays. We're going to be 80% pass, air raid. He's going to want to break every Ohio State passing record that's ever existed this year. So we are going to be throwing that thing down the field. So I just think that if you're a quarterback, that is a fun way to work. Ryan Day, former quarterback. Quarterbacks hate running the ball. They want to throw it as early and as often and as deep as possible, and that's what we do. Our passing game has been prolific, and I think our running game suffered a little bit because of it. But you can't argue with the offensive production, the way we're putting skill guys into the league at wide receiver. Obviously, we're gonna have Marvin and Mecca will probably be top 10 picks next year. So it's just an exciting time. Scrimmage wise, I think that. The thing that, a lot of people are down on the offensive line. A lot of people are worried that the O-line is going to stink. I'm just not there yet. Last year at the same time, we were talking about Jack Sawyer and JT dominating Dewan and Paris. And, Dewan and Paris turned out to be All-Americans and first-round picks. And, Jack and JT, they had good seasons, but they weren't All-American early out guys yet. So I think that's a little early. I think you need to pump the brakes a little bit. I think that if Justin Fry could go back in time a year ago, he probably would have made Zen Mikulski the backup right tackle behind DeWand. It made Josh Fryer the backup left tackle behind Paris because he basically wasted an entire year of those guys practicing on the wrong sides. And not to say that you can't switch sides, but I know it's difficult to do. I've done it. If you talk to offensive linemen that have played on the left side their whole life or the right side their whole life, it is hard to switch sides. It takes a lot of time to get that muscle memory right. And so I think that's something that, Justin Fry wishes he could have, probably gone back and done. But at this time last year, he probably didn't think DeWand was going to go pro. And DeWand might have ended up being the left tackle for this year. So, I'm sure he had no thought that Luke Whippler would go pro. So, when you lose three guys early to the draft, there's going to be growing pains. Zen Mikulski being out for the scrimmage on Saturday, obviously that makes guys kind of bump up a rank. Teager has to go with the ones. You got to put Miles up with the twos. He's been working with the threes, and that's a big jump. I'm telling you, I've been there. I've been an offensive tackle. When you go from the threes to the twos to the ones, those are huge jumps on the O-line, and there's nowhere to hide. Like, you're going against JT and Jack Sawyer and Kenyatta and guys that are really good pass rushers and Caden Curry, and it's tough for a guy that's been here for like 3 months. So, yeah, we're coming around the mountain. We're almost to the full 15 minutes of Air's highlights. But again, all of them are legit highlights. They're not just there's not a lot of filler on here. These are all big time throws, touchdowns. I love this design. Again, this is like, imagine you got JJ. Imagine this is James Peoples. You got the full line going this way, zone scheme, fake the handoff. Something you do with a lefty is to deal it back over this way. You fake the handoff, and then this is, there's JJ, and this is Mylan, because Mylan, he's the guy that you do this kind of play for, where you throw it to him out in space, and it's just awesome. And I agree, Brass Tacks. I think that, when you get great receivers, man, it should have top quarterbacks. It's that iron sharpens iron thing. It's just a whole different deal when you can get those guys together. So, nothing on KJ Bolden yet. I think that's going to be a fist fight. I think that we're not done. I think that we've got a lot of momentum in recruiting right now, but I think that, that one's far from over. Is Kenyatta better than Jack Sawyer? No chance. Not yet. Could he be? Maybe. But I think Jack he gets a bad rap because he played out of position last year. And I think Jack's the kind of guy that could have a Tommy Eichenberg rise where, 2 years ago, all of Buckeye Nation was down on Jack Sawyer, and then, on Tommy, and then all of a sudden Tommy comes to Jim Knowles' system, gets coached up a little bit better, and magically he's an All-American. He's preseason Walter Camp first team All-American this year. Should have won the Butkus last year. I think that's something that can happen with Jack this year. I really do. I think Jack's the guy that played terribly out of position last year. I think he's the guy that can have a big time renaissance, and I'm really excited about him. I think he does. He's a prideful kid. He's a tough kid. And you just need some of that. You need some guys that are really tough. I'm supposed to get your boy Brandon Innes hopefully tomorrow or the next day. So I'm going to wrap this thing up and put a little bit of his tape on. Brandon is one of the greatest kids you could ever get to know. Super tough kid, big time attitude kid. And when I say attitude kid, he's a tone setter. He's a tough kid. Super, super attention to detail, super prideful, will do all the dirty work, but he's also just a beast on the field. But he's a really nice kid, so I think you guys will enjoy that. We're going to have him on. He was supposed to be on this past Friday, but I told him, I'm like, look, you're up at Ohio State. There's all these recruits. You're like when you get back down to Florida, we'll knock it out. Quick 30-minute interview. I'll do that live for you guys. I'll let you guys know on BuckeyeScoop.com when that goes down. But yeah, I don't know. Well, here's the thing, and this is something I talked to Bill Green about. So this is an interesting thing. So, with OSU being fifth on 247 Sports, Bill Green used to sit in these meetings for 247 Sports, and as guys commit to Ohio State, they get bumped from 3 stars to 4 stars, from 4 stars to 5 stars. So it's almost like no matter what, Ohio State is going to end up being a top 3 class just because guys get the Buckeye bump. Why is that? Because they need Bucknuts, their 247 site, to be buzzing. That's one of their powerhouse sites. That's one of the sites that has the most the most subscribers. The Ohio State sites kind of carry every network, and they know that. So, they always want Ohio State fans to be excited about it. So that's why they bumped the Armstrong brothers from 3 stars to 4 stars. And they'll bump James Peoples from a 4-star to a 5-star. That's just that's their business model. They want Ohio State fans to be excited. They want them to subscribe to their things. Bill Green's a guy that he's really, really prideful about his evaluations. He doesn't want to be a guy who's just a homer, who's a water carrier like a lot of the Ohio State, recruiting guys are. So, he gives a really thorough evaluation, and sometimes he's lower on guys. And that's something that the 247 people never understood about Bill, is that sometimes he would want to lower Ohio State guys because, he grades based on what he sees. And he's not always right, just because he's a human. Everyone, misses evaluations. But, he didn't think that it was right to have a kid get bumped just because he committed to Ohio State, whereas if he commits to Iowa or Minnesota, he stays a 3-star. So that's just kind of how it works with those things. It's very artificial how they do the ratings. I know they kind of start off okay, but as Ohio State accumulates more kids, magically, those kids all get bumps in their rankings, and they rise up to be a top, 2, 3, or 1-ish type class. So here's my thing. I think that the way that, Trey Sermon ended up, I think that the way, a lot of these guys have done well. I think if you've got fantastic receivers, it makes it a lot easier to be a running back at Ohio State, because you have a clean box. You have a nice, you can't load the box against Ohio State. When we have Marvin and Emeka out there, and then you have Tate and Ennis and these guys in the slot, like you can't put 7 guys in the box. You can't put extra safety in the box, because then you've got Marvin one-on-one. You've got Emeka one-on-one. So it's kind of like, how do you want to, it's like select how you want your death to take place when you go against Ohio State, because, if I'm a running back, I love that free and clear box, 6-man box. I mean, we should run for 10,000 yards, and all you got to do is just stick to it. I think that the hardest thing for Ryan Day and Brian Hartline is that they just don't like to stick to the run. We have 2 bad runs and we can it for a quarter and we just throw it downfield the whole game, which again, it's been productive, but I think there's some times where we get away from the running game a little too quick. But I just think that free access that you get when you've got monsters out on the edge, it really makes Ohio State a very attractive place for running backs to go. Let me see what else. All right. Any other questions, guys? I'm going to wrap this thing. This has been a great one. I appreciate you guys so much. Yeah, but Ennis is awesome, dude. I think you guys are going to love him. I think he's every bit as good as Tate is. It was unfortunate that he couldn't come early, but it's just one of those things where he, his school would not let him graduate early. It was a school policy, so he wanted to be here early. He'll be here the minute he's allowed to be part of the program, working out with the program. He's going to be here, and I think he's going to do fantastic. I think he'll play a lot this year too. I mean, he's going to be back working punt returns, kick returns. They're going to be working. I think Eric commits on the 8th. I believe that's the day he picked. So, I think it's coming. He's going to space it out a little bit from Peoples. 2 things I look for in a wide receiver: you got to be able to catch the ball. And again, there's what I look for, and there's what Brian Hartline looks for. I think you got to be able to catch the ball, and you got to have the physical attributes. Like, you got to be able to run a certain speed. You got to be able to get out your breaks. And you have to be, if there's a third one, I mean, you have to be coachable. You have to mentally be able to know the game, play the game, and play at a high level. Big time effort. I think that, some guys like Jaden Ballard, they haven't played because their effort levels. I think that Brian Hartline is a guy, if you're not going to go hard on the backside when you're the 5th option of a route, he's not going to play you. He doesn't care. I mean, that's just kind of how Brian always was. Brian always went hard. Brian went 1,000,000% on every single play when he played. He never took plays off when he's at Ohio State. And as you get into the NFL, you see guys that take a lot of plays off. But Brian was always the guy that went hard, and that was kind of his calling card. So if that's how he did it, that's how he's going to want these guys to do it. And that's good. I think it gets you in better shape. I think it's an unselfish way to play football. But I'm telling you, I'm super excited about Ennis, and it's going to be awesome. I mean, I'd have to go a 9, unless some. The only reason I don't go 10 on air picking Ohio State is simply because if some massive NIL deal comes, like it did with Fletcher last year. Fletcher loved Ohio State, loved Alford, but Miami offered him a massive amount of money to go there. And so he went there. So I never can fault a kid who gets, some sort of crazy NIL deal from A&M or from Florida. But I also think that a guy like Air, who plays quarterback, is smart enough to realize that, look, if I go to Ohio State, that $1 million or $2 million, that is peanuts compared to what Justin Fields makes, CJ Stroud makes, what the late Dwayne Haskins made on his rookie contract. Like, I think that, these guys are wising up to, do you want to take, you don't want to be, penny wise and dollar foolish, the old saying. I mean, I think that, if you stick with Ryan Day and you get in this offense and you play for 1 year or 2 years, you can be a zillionaire. Like Dwayne Haskins played in this offense for 1 year, 50 touchdowns, off to the league, top 15 pick or whatever he was. And then, Justin Fields probably should have been the 3rd pick in the draft for the 49ers, but they're still too stupid to do it. CJ Stroud's probably going to be the #1 pick in the draft, 1 or 2, depending on if they want Bryce Young or if they want him. So, if you're Air, I think you just trust the process, soak it up. Take your beatings from Ryan. Because again, like he's brittled with these quarterbacks now. And again, that's not uncommon, but he wants those guys to play a certain way. And if they're not playing a certain way, it's going to be, those film sessions are not for the faint of heart. And I think that, that you take it all with a grain of salt, because when you see the pipeline to the NFL and to being developed into a comprehensive quarterback that can really have a great career in the league, I think you just got to, suck it up and deal with it. So our special teams, it's interesting right now because, people joke about Marvin returning punts but I think Emeka's going to be our punt returner and kick returner. I think that I was stunned that we re-upped Parker Fleming over 2 years, but obviously Ryan Day thinks a lot of him. I thought after the 3 punts the fake punts that we muffed weren't, it wasn't great, but it's a mulligan for Parker Fleming. But I think our special teams have been fine. I think that we got to find a kicker. I don't know if Parker Lewis, the guy from USC, is going to be the guy. He's got big shoes to fill, because despite Noah Ruggles missing that last kick, he had a great career. He was a fringe All-American type guy. Might get a look at an NFL camp. So I think that kicker is one of those question marks. I think we're fine at punter. Jesse Burko is one of the best punters in the country. He could even go pro after this year, and then it'll be interesting to see who wins the place kicking job. So that's about as much as I got on the special teams. So, well, you know what, guys? I'm going to wrap this thing. I really, really appreciate you guys. This has been a fantastic show. Again, we got to see some great players. A lot of excitement, man. I'm telling you, BuckeyeScoop.com. Bill Green has got a huge update coming tomorrow. We're going to have a nugget on some of the stuff that went on in the film grading tomorrow. Ton of good action. And we have the Brandon Innes interview coming up. So I hope you guys tune into that. It'll be a blast. So if you enjoyed this video, please leave us a like, click subscribe. And if you really, really want the inside scoop, join BuckeyeScoop.com. We are the #1 message board. Our message board has been absolutely on fire. It has been cooking all weekend. We have a huge Masters thread coming up as well. Last 2 weeks of spring ball, so we're going to have a ton of inside information. But I'm just telling you, the community is just incredible. Really, really smart people, good people. Best recruiting guy in the business, Bill Green. Best inside guy in the business, Nevada Buck, and myself, bringing everything home. So really appreciate you guys, as always. I hope you guys enjoyed this show. Again, leave us a like, click subscribe. And if you're listening on Apple or Spotify, leave us a 5-star review, and we will appreciate you. So thank you guys so much. Thank you so much, Buckeye Nation. Thank you, Scoop family. I will see you guys on BuckeyeScoop.com. I'm going to jump on there right now and celebrate getting some awesome recruits added to the Buckeye family. You guys have a great rest of your day. Go Bucks.